my shoes and out the door. 5, I'm alive. 6, 7, 8, feeling great.
Hello, BYWG tribe. This is Dr. Noah. The supplement of the month for September is our very own Joint Formula Plus, with a 10% discount code for the month of September being Joint4Sept. So it's capital J, lowercase O-I-N-T, the number 4, capital S, lowercase E-P-T. The product of the month for September is our favorite blue light blocking lenses, Swannies. The book of the month for September is The Emotion Code by Dr. Bradley Nelson. At the end of the upcoming podcast, I will go into a little more detail of why we chose these three for the month of September. So stay tuned till the end for a few-minute description of each. Keep in mind, all the links, discount codes, and special offers for the product, supplement, and book will be listed in the show notes and iTunes, posted on social media, in our weekly newsletter, and on our website at www.beyondyourwildestgenes.com at the Listen Now tab.
Hello and welcome back to Beyond Your Wildest Genes podcast. We have the distinct pleasure to get a sneak peek, early look, and advanced copy of many books just about to hit the market. And often we get to interview the authors for the podcast. And this is the case for today's interview. So on the podcast today is Cory, and his new book coming out is Now is the Way, an unconventional approach to modern mindfulness. And we're going to dive right in. How are you today, Cory?
I'm great, man. It's so good to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm excited too. So let me just do your quick bio, and I think it's pretty modest. But Cory is a podcaster, the Astral Hustle, a meditation teacher and audio engineer. Through his popular online meditation course, Release into Now, and binaural beats for meditation, he has helped thousands of people learn how to meditate with clarity and simplicity. September 24th, his book, Now is the Way, hits the shelves, and the direct link will be in the show notes. He lives in Austin, Texas, and what I'm realizing over the years of podcasting is that everyone who's cool lives in Austin. I don't know why. Could you answer that question for me?
Yeah, man. It is interesting. It's because Austin is like this artistic liberal pocket it's been crushed into a diamond by the surrounding areas of Texas. So not that there's not, good stuff in Houston or the Dallas area, but in general, it's always been this safe haven and highly concentrated area of art, creativity, and just interesting weirdness. And so, yeah, man, it's become kind of over the years, the central kind of LA, New York spot of America.
Yeah, I need to get there for sure. So, all right. So first thing first, like I said, I think your bio is too modest. Can you just expound a little bit on your bio, your personal journey for our audience? It's just the first time you're on.
Yeah, sure, man. Basically, I started working with music whenever I was pretty young. Started my own music production company. I was always interested in philosophy, Western, Eastern philosophy, and just the internal journey in general, based on my background and surroundings, my experience and so forth. I was drawn to autodidactically, teach myself, kind of possessed to teach myself and just learn as much about the human condition and consciousness and, ways that I could become sovereign of my own being and become better, and reduce my suffering and increase my happiness and control and command over my life and my mind. And so I always was seeking that in professionally doing music at the same time as music production and composition. And essentially what happened is over the years of doing that, I began the podcast because a good friend of mine had a podcast, and I would go on it and just talk to him, my friend Aubrey, and then all of his listeners started hitting me up and saying, "Dude, you should start your own podcast." And so I did that, and so that happened, and that just kind of evolved and grew really quickly, and over the last several years, and from there I then wrote the book, and here we are.
That's cool. That's cool. So as I mentioned, I got an advanced copy of your book, and I got it when I was on vacation. I got back, and I'm through a couple chapters already, and I'm absolutely loving it. And to kind of warm up the audience to the book, can you give us like the Cliff Notes explanation on what is meditation, in your perspective, what is mindfulness, and what is mental clarity?
Yeah, sure, man. Basically, mindfulness is just having an awareness of your own thoughts. We are often living based upon our past experiences, our genetic inheritance, all of our cultural and social reinforcements, based upon where we live and when we are living. And what happens is that we learn all of these kind of thought programs almost, and we get into this habit of just reacting to our life, this momentum of reacting, without ever really stopping and really thinking and being present and aware of what we're thinking, why we're reacting to life in certain ways. And so mindfulness is a way to cultivate an awareness of what you're thinking and how you engage with the world. And basically, many people spend their lives in just this echo, this continuous reverberating one after another, just the links of reaction. And what mindfulness can do is help you start responding to life. So it's basically like, I've described it like this. If you think about if you're standing on the side of a road and a car comes over the horizon, this long road, and it flows by, you hear it, it gets closer, it gets louder, you can feel the wind, and then it goes by you, right? So you've got this time to observe it coming over the horizon and moving by. Mindfulness essentially does that with your thoughts. You begin to be able to be aware of what's arising, what emotions are arising, what thoughts are arising as they're coming over the horizon of your mind. And it gives you time to, do a whole matter of things. One of those would be you can, if you have negative thoughts arising, if you have judgmental thoughts that can be against others or yourselves, if your inner critic starts firing up, you can recognize that before it possesses you and makes you begin to kind of become this puppet of your past experience. And you can choose to change how you engage with other people, what you say and what you put into the world. One of the things I put in the book is that, we are not our thoughts. We are our thoughts that we turn into actions. And that's really what makes us in our lives. And by curating and being more present and aware of, who we are in the world, we really can completely shift who we become into the future. So meditation is, of course, something that most people are familiar with increasingly, these days. And essentially, the most simple explanation of it is it's just sitting and breathing. Mm-hmm. I put in the book, meditation, you do it every night while you sleep. I just want to show you how to do it while you're awake. And at the most basic level, you can get massive results from even 5 minutes in the morning or before you go to bed, or 10 minutes. Just sitting, close your eyes and inhale. And as you exhale, relax all the muscles in your body and your face. And when you inhale, try and just kind of imagine you're breathing in life. Exhale, try and relax your muscles a little bit more, your body. Let your spine be flowing upwards, your head float on top. And then inhale more life, and exhale, relax your muscles. If you were to do that for 5 or 10 minutes a day, you would actually notice a massive change in the way that you feel, the clarity in what you think, and so on. And so, really meditation beyond that is it cultivates a negative space. It gives you this breathing room to exist in the world, right? Because we're all so pressurized and distracted and anxious because of the complexity of the modern world and just how freaky it is to be a human, right? And so what meditation does is allows you to really, think of as you go through life and all these different things you're experiencing, the challenges, the pressures, all the frustrations, and just everything that comes with life. We're picking that up every day and we're carrying it with us. Meditation is a time that you can set all that stuff down. And as you practice it more consistently, just as simple as what I described earlier, the more that you're able to set down the stuff of your past as well, really let go, release, and that gives you this nice breathing room. And so you'll find yourself then in a situation where you may have been frustrated or confused or angry or flustered or overwhelmed. and you'll find just like, wait a second, I've got all this breathing room. I'm not getting controlled and reacting to the situation. I'm actually able to be present here with it and have a more compassionate for you and for others type of response.
And mental clarity, how does that fit in?
Yeah, mental clarity essentially is kind of imagine a harmonic of those two things, which is that's more of a byproduct or a result of meditation and mindfulness. Is it allows you to actually, those two practices allows one to become more aware of what they're thinking. And what's really fascinating is that for me, just having meditated for 20 years, is that it's very apparent to me how, this is a fun little example. Like if you were to think back to whenever you were 12 years old, you're going to school, kind of think about how you saw the world and how you saw yourself. And then if you flash forward to, 10 years past that, you think about, wow, I can't believe how limited and simple and kind of off and basic my view of the world was and the things I was focused on. And I've learned so much more. There's my understanding of life has just increased exponentially, well, this can not only, this happens our entire lives in most cases, but through meditation and mindfulness, that happens yet to another deeper degree. So you begin to experience life like you've taken another layer of this kind of cloud or fog off of your experience. So a new type of clarity of thinking, a clarity of, the situations of your life, of the big picture of your decision making, and how all of it fits together is extremely useful because you basically just have a more depth of understanding of your own being.
My job is health, and, a byproduct of that, of course, is my own personal health. And same thing with Beyond Your Wildest Dreams, the podcast, and my chiropractic practices. It's really all about health. And, about 5 years ago, I recognized that I needed to start a yoga practice. And, most yoga finishes with shavasana at the end, and that's kind of like a meditation. But my mind races all the time. And meditation has always been very, very difficult for me. So about a year and a half ago, I got one of those fancy headsets that, has the binaural beats and the flashing red and blue lights to kind of help me get into meditative state. And that's been a game changer for me. And I know you have an interest in binaural beats. But, I want to be able to do both. I want to be able to use this headset, but I also want to be able to meditate without using all of this technology.
Yeah.
Do you understand where I'm going with that statement?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, and that's beautiful to hear that you were able to kind of find something that worked for you. And I think that it's funny. Is that the Muse headset that you got?
It's not the Muse. It's called Brain Tap. I think it's a little different than the Muse, but similar but different.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, think of it like, man, as long as you're getting up to the top of the mountain, right? That's what's important. But it's good to, that there are these consciousness hacking tools, as some people kind of tend to call them. It's like a good training wheels for meditation. And there's nothing wrong with using modern technology, of course, to help facilitate your meditation. I think it's wise to use everything that's available, everything you can. But what that will do for you is allow you to get comfortable with sitting. There's this period whenever people start meditating, generally, that I find is that the first few times they try, then they say, "Oh my God, I just felt like my mind was racing, and it was so crazy, and like I was so fidgety, and I couldn't sit still, and I got bored, and I think I'm just not the meditating type." And it's really like that experience is actually the first and hardest success of a meditation practice or of mindfulness. That is that you became aware of your thoughts in that moment and all the chaos that's happening in there. And so that's actually the hard part. And so once you recognize it, from then on, then it's just a matter of creating good habits, So the compound benefits of meditation are really remarkable. So if someone is fidgety or they just have trouble remembering, just putting it into your morning routine where you're doing it for 5 minutes a day and just really lowering the stakes. That's another thing that I think is important, because people tend to get this idea that it's got to be a sacred, and it can be, but anything can be sacred, right? Like life is sacred, life is divine. So, but people put pressure on themselves because of just some of the old, kind of the hangover of the old culture of how we once saw meditation, or how people saw meditation. So there's this idea of like, okay, you've got to, be this Buddha type figure. And it's like, that's just not true. You just lower the stakes, just chill, spend 5 minutes with it. Spend 5 minutes with it the next morning, right after you wake up or something, and do it several days in a row, and you'll start to notice like, I think this is like getting a little easier. I think I'm a little less fidgety. I think that, it's happening. And once you just start slowly putting in that time, then it turns to, then it starts getting exciting, right? Because you really start feeling the benefits, and then it becomes a thing that you want to do, not just something that you feel like you are forcing yourself to do.
Right. So, yeah, and I agree, and that's what's happening to me, and I'm getting better and better at it. But it's a work in progress for me. So in my prep for this podcast, on Apple Music, I came across your album, The Source.
Oh, boy.
And Monday I forgot my brain tap at home, and I was in my office before I started the day seeing patients, and I put my AirPods on and turned that puppy on. And about halfway through the first song, I must have zonked out and woken up in the fourth song. So, good, bad, and different. I've been tinkering around with that since Monday, and actually I like it a lot. Particularly the fourth song, which I think has some harmonium on it, and the yoga studio that I have, they use the harmonium a lot, so it's pretty cool.
Nice, thank you, man. I'm glad you enjoyed that and you found that. My music, of course, I create a lot of binaural beats, and those are all on my website, but my actual just music is it's pretty weird. So I normally don't bring it up too much, because I figure like someone like yourself, if you find it, if you're drawn to it, then that's awesome. But yeah, it might be a little odd sounding to some folks.
Now, do you have meditation mentors? Like, who are your people you look up to in meditation?
Yeah, man, I'm like a total autodidact, and I know I said that earlier, and I say that, I like to clarify that I say I'm an autodidact not because some people say that. They're like, oh, I taught myself, in this sort of way of almost defiant, ego boosting. I say it to take responsibility for my idiocy. It's like, hey, look, I've just learned all this stuff myself. I'm sure there's huge gaps of all subjects that I've missed out on. Same thing with music production. I taught myself that. But as far as people who I don't have any formal teachers, but people who, I've read a lot of writing and interviews and lectures and stuff. Chogyam Trungpa is someone who I think has a great general philosophy on meditation, because I am very into I'm very into realistic, non-woo, applicable practices, right? Things that do not have potential pathways towards self-delusion, because my entire aim and goal with everything is truth, clarity, bringing us and myself to terms with as much of reality as we can, and to acknowledge our suffering, to acknowledge our delusions, to acknowledge all these elements of ourself they're causing our stuckness, and to actually engage with it and learn how to work with it and learn real usable tools that we can apply to our lives to actually get something tangible, because a lot of stuff that's been written about meditation, a lot of stuff in the yoga communities, of course, there's a lot of just kind of there's a stuff that there's a lot of culture that becomes types of self-identity, right? It becomes more of a identity to wear or something, as opposed to the actual real nuts and bolts of practice and things like that. So I really like people who slice through that stuff and get to the real deep heart of things. And Chogyam Trungpa is a guy that definitely did that. And speaking of slicing through, if anyone's interested in work by him, Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism is one of the best books out there as far as meditation and Eastern thought goes.
Cutting Through What is it again? Cutting through
spiritual materialism.
Spiritual material. Okay.
And nothing would make me more happy than on Amazon to see people who bought Now is the Way also bought Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism. That would make my life. So I hope that listeners do buy that book and my book.
Sounds good. So is what you explain the impetus of why you wrote your book?
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's basically my whole life journey of just figuring out my own mind and trying all these different practices and just learning Eastern and Western philosophy and really putting myself in the lab and investigating neuroscience and psychology and semantics and all this stuff just to understand what's up with my consciousness. You know, what's up with all of what are we doing here? How do we optimize it? You know, and optimize, you know, that might sound like a little buzzwordy, but I mean, how can we live with the most joy and the least amount of pain, you know, and continue to evolve? And so what I started doing, and it really came from whenever I started my podcast, was just sharing my entire life I just very privately always was figuring out and deconstructing my suffering, deconstructing my own personal traumas and experiences, and understanding myself, understanding why I was acting and feeling the ways I was and how I could change that. And I worked on that just intensely, you know, daily for the last 20 years or more. And a certain time came that when I started my podcast, you know, I realized, you know, maybe what I could do is just share, because I realized these are not experiences and feelings that only I feel. These are human things. These are human challenges and human struggles. And maybe I could share how I figured some of these things out and how I moved through these things with other people. Perhaps it would be useful. And that's was the real impetus of my podcast. And so the book is an extension of that. It's kind of like trying to take a real comprehensive guide to how I have turned myself from a person that was suffering and angry and unhappy to someone who is compassionate and present and grateful. And it's a roadmap to that.
Cool. You know, so I'm looking at page 30 and I have something starred and highlighted, and it says, attention has become a new currency. And that really resonated with me. The funny thing is that I'm sitting in a swing in my backyard, and I'm reading the book, and right next to me I have this Bose wireless speaker, and I'm listening to Korn at the same time as I'm reading, and I'm like, what the hell what am I doing here? Like I'm reading this book and listening to some pretty aggressive music at the same time. And then a quote comes up, attention has become a new currency, and that's a great line. I don't know if you came up with that, where that came from, but that's really fantastic.
Yeah, I did. Thank you so much. It came really from how I see social media affecting all of our minds, you know, because marketing has shifted, you know, to all the marketing dollars are going to web ads through social media, through Google and all this type of thing. Essentially, the content has changed to a way that it's less about anything meaningful in most cases and more about just grabbing clicks and churning those web pages and getting people to, you know, using the algorithms that gauge and use computational inference to gauge people's emotional responses and curating content lists that draw people in, keep them outraged, keep them emotionally manipulated to continue scrolling and to basically look for those fleeting little dopamine hits of fake connectivity, right? And because that is how, you know, unfortunately, that's how the, you know, marketing kind of capitalism in our society has shifted, because we are forced to use our computers and phones so much, we're all drawn into that, right? And so now it's like, to get eyeballs onto a page is how someone is making money out there. Like a company is making money by having eyeballs on a page, and the receipt of that, the cost of that, is our, you know, our happiness, our peace of mind, are the ability to have a concentration and a mind and a life that is not fractured in a bunch of places. Like the amount of people that if you walk through, a restaurant or something or a coffee shop, the amount of people you see like eating and looking at their phone and probably sitting at the table with another person while at the same time, it's really bizarre. It's like, what's going on? Like, what are you actually even experiencing, right? It's like we're all stretched in so many different directions that we're missing out on 90% of just the abundance of our own physical human experience. And so, yeah, I mean, that's where all that came from, is that it's strange that there are now predators of our attention out there because they're trying to make money off of it. And recognizing that is really valuable, and being able to like, okay, now I see the game that's being played and I can kind of dial it back and take control of your own focus.
Now, the book is basically broken down into 4 chapters: now, there, here, and how. Was this the simplest way to write this book for you? Like, why this structure?
Yeah, I thought that would be the best way to take people through someone who had never heard of mindfulness, someone who had never thought of meditation, and particularly as I really talk about all this stuff for a person that's living in the world, the strange and beautiful times of 2019, 2020, Mm-hmm. There's a lot of course, writing about mindfulness and classic works on meditation out there, but nothing I've seen has talked about it in a modern and fresh way for people living today. And so I wanted to take this and create this structure so that you could really roll up on it and have, now. Well, no one ever, like, people don't really define what now is or presence. It becomes kind of like a meme or a hallmarkized kind of buzzword of like, oh, we'll live in the present, be the here and now, be here now. It's like, well, what does that mean, to people? And if you ask them, people generally don't really know, right? And so I really walk it through, like not only just viscerally describing presence and like the experience of presence, but then talking about, what it is, why it's important, why it's valuable. So really defining presence first. And then there is the section that defines and shows people how we lose focus, how our attention wanders, how our lives kind of creep away from us, and we get caught up in these weeks or months of years of just habitual causal behavior that we are on. We wake up and we're like, oh wait, 2 years went by. What was I doing? Like, why? When did I didn't choose any of what's happened? We just get into these momentums of distraction that can last for a long time. So I talk about how that happens and just define what all that looks like. And then in here, the here section, I talk about how you can come back to now. How do you, once you are lost, once you are scattered and distracted and anxious and all that stuff, how can you pull it back in? How can you come back to now and kind of retake control of your life and start to enjoy and feel the beautiful gratitude and just kind of magic of this gift of living? And then the how section is something I think is very important, which is really showing people how to implement that into their lives. Like there's a section there. How is broken into 2 sections. One is called 12 Ways to Now. It's like, here are 12 ways. You don't even have to read the chapters, read the titles, and you'll learn, like, here are 12 things you can do in your life that will show you, that will really create big changes. It'll really bring more presence into your life. And then the second section is just on meditation. So it gives people a very crystal clear understanding of what meditation is and how they can use it to their benefit.
Cool. I have basically two final questions for you, but before we get there, is there anything else you want to say about the book?
No, I think that anyone that is interested in having more joy, more peace of mind, more control, more self-awareness, and really just, I think, choosing how to live their lives and just confront and solve those issues that cause all of this distraction and frustration and what have you, can use it to bring more compassion, more command and more joy and presence into their lives. And I truly believe that I wrote it completely from the heart, and there's just a lot of love in there and a lot of truth and realistic thoughts and ideas. And I did that because it means a lot to me, because I respect. You said you read in the intro of the book, I put in there specifically, like, I don't need to know you if you're reading the book, but I care. I really do. It's because it's a human thing, man. It's like, I know what it feels like to be suffering. I know what it feels like to be lost and to be just in a terror escape of this human life. And I know what it feels like to get out of that. And I thought that if I could articulate that in a way that someone else could do that, even one person, that is incredibly valuable and meaningful to me. And I just respect it so much that I think that, it is my hope that people will connect with the book and be able to, if it's even one small thing, turn one of the knobs on their own life and feel some of that same thing that I felt, because it's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's and I told you, and I love the book. I'm loving the book, and I can't recommend it enough for sure.
Thank you.
How about some of the other projects you do? Just a little explanation. Release Into Now and the podcast, the Astral Hustle.
Yeah, sure. So Release Into Now is a meditation course, an online meditation course I did probably 4 years ago or something like that. Essentially, I was doing meditation courses around town in Austin, where I live, and I just did them because of what I described earlier. I thought, hey, I haven't really shared a lot of my meditation experience with people, and I have a unique system that I use because it's one that I basically learned as many styles and philosophies as I could, and then removed the walls from them all and extracted what seemed really useful and made a lot of sense to me. Kind of created my own style, and I thought maybe other people could find this approach useful, and kind of bringing meditation to the now generation, And so I started doing these workshops, and they just blew up. Like, it was, every time I did one, there was 100 people would show up, and I decided, hey, I should try and, people kept telling me, how do I, can I do this? I don't live in Austin. How can I do it? I'm like, okay, well, I'll make an online course. And so that's what that is. And that's released, again, with my friend Aubrey, and the company On It, that is like they're a supplement, fitness company, kind of total human well-being company. So it's licensed to them now. And so, it's all through On It and Aubrey, their brands, but, that is there. And then, as far as the podcast goes, the Astral Hustle, it's about 200 episodes, been doing it for 4 years, and, it's just been one of the greatest teachers and pleasures and, projects, of my life, getting to talk to, so just incredible joy. This, Noah,
Mm-hmm.
Getting to talk to, not me, but amazing people, other people you have on your show. Just getting to talk to awesome people, and like pick their brains and learn just more maps of what it means to be a person, and getting to apply all that knowledge and all that perspective to your map. And, it's such a pleasure. And then hearing the response from the listeners and being able to share it and have a community, and just everyone vibing on how can we suffer less and be happier and laugh and not take ourselves. I love the Alan Watts quote of, we should take life sincerely, but not seriously, and I really believe that. I think that any, person who is nearing or like has had enlightenment moments, you'll recognize them by the sound of their laughter, and so it's just being able to talk to just the incredible people that I had, I would never have dreamed of getting to talk to. It's just a real joy. And I now look at it as it's just really for the listeners, man. It's like, I just want to keep bringing them stuff that makes them happy and keep providing all that goodness. And, it's just it's an honorable position. I'm incredibly grateful for it.
Yeah, that's cool. And final question I ask all my guests for at least the last 2 years is, what's your daily rhythm from waking to sleeping?
Well, generally, I wake up. That's the first step one. Step one is I wake up. Step 2 is I lock eye contact with myself in the mirror for 2 hours and deal with the existential reality. No, I generally wake up. I go running. Generally, first thing I run 5 times a week. Usually, I run about 4-ish miles every time. Come home, get cleaned up, and I meditate right after that. Have some coffee. Then I basically just these days, because I live the composite life, as I call it. I look at my calendar, see what I've got planned, if it's a podcast, if it's whatever the project is or whatever the thing I need to work on. Then I just put some work in. I get in my studio. I have a beautiful music studio that has become just kind of my podcasting / writing / artistic creative space. It's my little the mothership, and basically just spend most of the day in here and work on stuff. And then it's just I make sure and cut it off, around 6 or 7 o'clock, and then go, then my wife and I hang out or do whatever, and I like to eat well and all that. But I think it's important too, once you're doing something, I imagine you're probably in the same position, man, is that like what I get to do, the music, the podcast, the writing, I love it so much. Like it's not a job, it's like I just love doing all this stuff. It's just a joy. And because I like doing it so much, I want to do it all the time. And so it's really important for me to cut it off, at a certain time in the evening and make sure I just step away and go do human things and then come back to it and the next day,
Any last words for us? I know you got a lot of words, but any last words?
I would say, last words is, it's all going to be all right. It's going to be cool. It's all right. You're cool. It's good. You'll be fine. This is someone asked me, recently if I could say, what would I say to myself if I could talk to my 20-year-old self? And I said, don't be such a jerk. It's all going to be all right. And I thought, I could probably, my 50-year-old self could say that to me now, and so forth and so forth.
Yep.
And so, it's going to be cool. We're all good.
I love it. My name is Dr. Noah DeCoyer, your co-host, and you're listening to the Beyond Your Wildest Dreams podcast. If you like what you've heard today, please share this with your friends and family. Encourage them to subscribe on iTunes. A great rating helps more people hear our incredible podcast. The links to the book will be in the show notes and on our website in the Listen Now tab. And thank you. And don't forget to be awesome and never unawesome. Thanks, Cory.
It's Dr. Noah, and I'm back. In this new format, we will briefly mention the product, book, and supplement of the month for each and every month at the beginning of the podcast, and then discuss them more thoroughly at the end of the podcast. We hope you love this new format. So, the book of the month for September 2019 is The Emotion Code, How to Release Your Trapped Emotions for Abundant Health, Love, and Happiness by Dr. Bradley Nelson. We highly recommend this book. It's on my Audible playlist currently. You can hear Dr. Mike interview Dr. Bradley on the August 19th podcast release. Simply stated, a great listen. The supplement of the month for September is BYWG's Nutrition's Joint Formula Plus. The 10% off code for the month of September is Joint for SEPT. That's capital J, lowercase OINT, number 4, capital S, lowercase EPT. This is a powerful blend of building blocks associated with joint and cartilage repair, like glucosamine and MSM. It also includes nutraceuticals like bromelain and grapeseed extract with anti-inflammatory processes that improve recovery, help manage arthritis pain, and can slow the degenerative process. Are you a weekend warrior? Do you pound the pavement, CrossFit, or do you suffer from osteoarthritis? If you said yes to any of these, or all of them, or you just have generalized joint pain, this supplement is for you. We suggest an initial trial of 3 months to assess the effectiveness for you, and the only contraindications are if you're allergic to shellfish or pineapple. At our website, www.beyondyourwildestdreams.com, we have a resource page and a research page if you'd like more information. The product of the month is Swannies, blue light blocking lenses. Tribe, using these glasses might be the most effective and cheapest biohack yet. Sitting under unnatural lighting all day, including halogen and compact fluorescence, staring at computer screens or our cell phones for hours a day, and sleeping with the TV on is disrupting our melatonin production and circadian rhythms dramatically, which has devastated our sleep. By using these lenses an hour before you go to bed and to help eye strain during the day, you will see and set yourself up for a much more restful, restorative sleep. I have at least 5 pairs, 5 different styles. In fact, my kids have them as well. I had surgery 5 years ago, and after I could not use my computer anymore without getting a terrible headache, near migraine status. Using these glasses eliminated this completely. They are absolutely invaluable to me. Check them out at our website link in the show notes and in our weekly correspondence. Thank you for your time, and be awesome and never unawesome. Hey everybody, are your children heading back to school and you finally have time to do something just for you? Do you feel that you're just one messy flux of hormones? Are you feeling overwhelmed and stressed by life right now? If you'd answer yes to one, more than one, or all of these, then the Getting to Goddess program is for you. We are thrilled to announce that we are releasing our Getting to Goddess program this Labor Day weekend and running through September 23rd at an incredible discounted price to help you take charge of your life and health, and it's just for women. The course is normally $297, but by using the code HEALTHYWOMEN at our checkout, you will receive $200 off, making the price for the entire course only $97. In addition to the course, for those of you who purchase, we'll be hosting a live Q&A early October. Thanks for listening.